All right, let's get started. So we got the Undrafted Hockey Fan Podcast. I think this is our episode 3. Just kind of going off riff here, but you saw in the title, and you can see on the video as well. We got the NHL Western Conference Pacific Division season preview. A little late to start. Got a couple games already in the season, but let's just get started and talk about it and kind of what we're going to see happening in this division. I think it's going to be an interesting division to say the least. We already saw some of the teams are coming off a little strong and some are not so strong. So, but hey, this is where I think, just by feeling and kind of what I've seen the moves that they've done throughout the offseason, just to see, again, just taking my perspective. If clearly my perspective is just my perspective, so we're just gonna jump right into it. So let's go to our. Let me get this set up. So we're gonna start off with our. Let's see, go to the next page. So we have my first team we have going is in 8th place is the San Jose Sharks. Honestly, they're my second favorite team, which is a bummer because I really want them to do well. And so they just got Mike Greer, new GM. I got this. If you can see the video, I'm actually wearing my Sharks hat right now. I really love them. They're a great team. They are not doing well. The problem is with the teams, they don't know what they want to do. They don't know if they want to. They're giving off the middling team vibes, which is what Minnesota had done for a really long time. They're a very kind of playoff team. They're kind of in that middle where you're between the 20 to 14 range, where you're in and out of the playoffs. You're just not really committed to being full in. You're doing just staying in the mix. But so the problem is that San Jose has these huge contracts. They have Erik Karlsson for $11.5 million for another 5 years. They just signed Hurdle an 8-year. They just signed Couture an 8-year recently too. They have Vlasic as well. It's just there's a lot of big contracts and a lot of money tied up in these big contracts. Doug Wilson, unfortunately, did great. He took them to the Stanley Cup Finals against. They had the huge series against Vegas, and then eventually they ended up losing to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think that's 2017. Great year, but unfortunately, when you're tying guys down and going all in with that, you end up losing a lot of important pieces, and you start making moves that are just a little bit sloppy because you have guys you want to keep on and try and redo what you're doing. So with the San Jose Sharks, I think that they just need to commit to. I think they need to commit to a rebuild. Or retool, maybe a year or two retool. They have some upcoming prospects. They have Bordelot, they have Eklund as well. But the problem is those kids are still not ready and developed enough. And you can see just by some of the moves that they made in the offseason, they're not going all in. They acquired Capo Caco in the trade with with Middleton to Minnesota. Did that at the trade deadline last year. They signed Nico Sturm. I thought it was a good pickup. He was from Minnesota as well. Matt Benning, defenseman, fine. Steven Lorenz came over from Carolina. He was in one of the trades. And then they picked up Oscar Lindblom. I like Oscar Lindblom because of the story. Mind you, Oscar Lindblom, he overcame cancer, and he actually was bought out by the Philadelphia Flyers. And I was pissed about the Philadelphia Flyers because it was a bad move. It just looked bad. I mean, your guy just came over cancer, and you're going to buy him out and get him out of his NHL contract. I'm like, you guys are just a PR nightmare, is the Flyers, honestly. I would love to do it. I think I'm going to do an in-depth dive. Let me know if you want me to do an in-depth dive on the Flyers. I would love to. I think I'm going to do it anyways, whether you ask for it or not, because I think it'd be fun. They also picked up Luke Cunnin from Nashville. They did do a trade with Nashville. I believe they sent John Leonard over there with, I believe it was a second or third round pick. And Luke Cunning's fine. I think both are just in need of, I liked Leonard. I thought he was a good player, but just kind of not, the production wasn't there. So I think he had 14 games last year, 4 points. It was really low. And same with Luke Cunnin. Just the production really wasn't there. He played 82 last year, 22 points. I think that he's going to be given a bigger role. Looks like they're probably going to play him. Let's see, probably on the front. The top line with Meyer and Couture is kind of it's looking like so. But let's talk about the big blows that we're really talking about. We have Aidan Hill was traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. I liked Aidan Hill, but they had so many goalies. They had Capo Kakkonen. They had James Reimer. He's on the last year's deal. They're gonna probably end up flipping him at the end of the deadline. He's just he was so good last year. I'm surprised they didn't flip him last year. And they had to get rid of Aidan Hill too. So and Vegas was a good pickup because they lost Leonard. They have Francois, and Vegas also we'll talk about Vegas later, but they have Francois and they have Logan Thompson. And so Logan Thompson seems like he's gonna be pretty good, but he's still young. He still has a lot of time to develop. So they traded Lane Pearson and this is the one I was the big trade that I was talking about was the Brent Burns one. Brent Burns is, man, he's a staple. I mean, look, missing teeth. I mean, he's older, mind you. The cool thing is he was an older defenseman that was still producing at a pretty good point. He played 82 games last year, 57 points, I believe. And so he's still producing in a defensive role. I mean, he's a defensive liability. He's very offensive minded. He's actually one of the rare players that can actually play a forward or a defenseman role. So I think that he was highly valued, but that's also the reason why they traded him. My issue is that I feel like they should have gotten more out of it. They ended up getting Steven Lorenz, another goalie prospect, as well as a third-round draft pick. But the thing is that, again, he produces. I thought he's a great veteran, and I think Carolina did great by picking him up. I think they paid next to nothing because Carolina's going all in. They picked up Pacioretty as well, and Brent Burns. Now, mind you, San Jose is retaining a third of that contract for the next, I believe, 3 years. So they also bought off Rudolph Balcers, which I like Rudolph, but that's a team decision. It's not, mind you, it's Mike Greer's team now, right? So he gets to do what he wants. He has no relation to these players. He is clean slate. I believe his brother is also, Mike Greer's brother is the general manager or president of a football team, I believe. So there's admin and being able to run a team in his family. So he's already used to that. So hopefully we'll see the San Jose Sharks improve. Doubtful. I mean, they're already. To be honest, they're at a 0-5 start right now for the season. So we'll see how that goes. Did not do well against Nashville. It's just not looking promising. And we knew they weren't going to be great. Really need Erik Karlsson to step up. By the way, that guy, he's probably one of my favorite players out there. Him, Timo Meier are my two favorite players. I actually don't know if San Jose, at the rate that they're going, that Timo Meier will want to stay. Especially I think he has a higher qualifying offer. I don't know if he's going to end up accepting it. So we'll see. He's a restricted free agent. So hopefully they end up keeping him. So next on, we have the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim Ducks, again, going through rebuild similar to the Red Wings recently. Actually, they ended up picking Pat. I can't think of his name right now. Pat. What's your name, Pat? Verbeek. That's what it is. It's Pat Verbeek. So they picked him up. He was actually working with the Detroit Red Wings. I believe he was assistant GM, and then they picked him up as a GM. So good for them. I'm happy for them. Steve Eisman just cranking out guys into the NHL that are going into leadership. I'm actually waiting for Chris Draper to leave the Detroit Red Wings to go pick up a higher spot in another organization. I'd hate to see him go, but he's done a really good job with amateur and rookie scouting. So hopefully we'll see them. Hopefully we won't see them losing again. I'm a Red Wings fan. So the problem is with the Anaheim Ducks is they didn't do too many big things. They did a couple of good things. The big thing that they did is they picked up Frank Vetrano, 3 years, which I thought was good. Ryan Strome, another good forward. He played well. And the big one is John Klingberg. So John Klingberg looking for last year he was looking for a big contract. I believe they said the Stars actually offered him a 7x7, so 7 years, $7 million. And I believe his agent told him to turn it down. And John did. And so now at the end of the trade deadline, at the end of the year, he was looking for a contract. Couldn't find one, and so he ended up just signing a 1 year, $7 million contract with the Ducks. Clearly looking to do a prove it year, similar to what Taylor Hall did a couple years ago with the Buffalo Sabres and the New Jersey Devils, I believe. He went out and got like a $9 million 1 year contract. Hey, it was a prove it deal, and that did not work out well in my opinion, for Taylor Hall. He ended up just signing a 4 year, $6.6 million contract per year. So fine, we got a multi-year contract, but when you're your asking price $9 million, it's just hard for teams to accommodate that, especially when you're that prove it year. You really want to get those big years out. And Taylor Hall had some good years, and he should have signed a big long contract, but that's on him for trying to make more money. And he tried, and doesn't always work out. So they're going to flip John Klingberg. I mean, I think they're going to get a great asset. They're probably going to give him like a second or a first round pick, depending on how he plays. He is an offensive monster. He is a defensive liability, though. He makes your defense worse. And as a defenseman, that is bad. So hopefully I don't know who let's see. With Klingberg, I believe they're going to have Fowler. Fowler's pretty offensive, though, too. But he's more defensively responsible. But, like, you'd like to see him with someone who's going to take over, so that allows Klingberg to go down the offensive zone and allow him to go pursue the puck with his big body and let him get those opportunities for scoring chances and really getting into the zone. So hopefully they'll get him with someone good, as well as they actually picked up a really – I really like this guy. I am like a softie for these first round picks that just don't end up working out or have injuries. Olio Levy played with Florida last year. Red Wings picked him up. He played on, I think, 18 games last year with them. I really wanted him to work out, man. I don't think he even get registered a point, but I really wanted Olio Levy to register a point. But so he'll be working with I don't know. He's not even on the list right now. Who's going to be working with? He's probably just an extra pickup. So we'll see. I don't think he might even get cut. So a couple big losses. We'll just do the smaller ones. We'll do Sonny Milano. He went and signed recently, actually, with the Washington Capitals, a league min deal. Two-way contract, or one-way contract, but he is getting sent down to the AHL. I'm surprised with Sonny Milano. He had a huge hype. He had a good season. I think he was like a half point per game. He had a good season last year, so I'm surprised that he didn't end up just, getting a $2 million contract. He had the huge, massive goal with Trevor Zegras, where Trevor Zegras flipped it over the net and Sonny Milano knocked it in. I mean, that was all over the internet, and Trevor Zegras is just being carted around the NHL as being the new face of the NHL. I think Moritz Seider is a little more personable, but Trevor Zegras is great too. Also, great player. I would have taken him in the 2019 draft pick as well. I know they had a big swing for Seider, and clearly he is the steal of the draft. So it ended up working out well for the Red Wings, but Zegras is still a very talented center. Zach Esser-Reese went and signed with Toronto. I think it's $840,000. Sam Steele signed with the Minnesota Wild, as well as Ryan Getzlaf, the biggest loss, their captain, still a productive player as well. He ended up retiring. He talked about how he was going to retire. So there's a huge, I think that's where you're going to need to see some of the people that they signed down with Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano and John Klingberg. They really need to step up in that veteran leadership role. Ryan Getzlaf, mind you, won a Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks back in the 2002, like in the early 2000s. So you're looking at a team that he's been on for a long time, that he led, and that he really made an impact with. So I hope Ryan has a great retirement. Good for him. Hopefully he comes back to the league in a admin position, working with the Ducks. I know that they'd love to have him back, and I wouldn't be surprised to see if Ryan Getzlaf actually gets his number retired. So hopefully we'll see that happen, and we wish him well. Like I said, actually, Anaheim Ducks was one of my favorite teams as well. I like the California teams. So I talked about last video. I got Red Wings as number one, San Jose Sharks, then Dallas Stars. I switched the Stars out the Ducks out for the Stars. I just ended up watching a lot more of their games. And the Ducks just aren't as fun. I didn't have really direction, and it sounds like they seem like they have a little more of a direction with Sonny or Jamie's Drysdale coming up as well. We have Grant. You have, I like, and Terry as well. McTavish. I mean, McTavish was massive. Did you guys see that Canada game, the World Juniors? Holy smokes. Mind you, the situation ended up being that there's a puck being shot into the net. Goalie was out of position or something like that. McTavish goes and swings and knocks the puck out of midair from going in the goal. Mind you, the situation ended up being because of his blunder, but still for him to come back and save it and stop that goal. And then Canada goes on to win the World Juniors. It was epic. It was wild. So, lastly, I did want to mention goalies. They have Stolars and they have Gibson. Gibson, I think, is top 10. In my opinion, mind you, I think he's top 10. I don't think that he's been well supported recently. I don't think Anaheim's doing good enough, as we've seen the standings too. So, to me, Gibson is someone that he needs to step up as well. But I think that he has the ability to start building a little bit of a team. He can start building the confidence. I'd like for him to stay around, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So, like I said, if you're going to trade him, let him go to his team that will value him and that will take him seriously and wants him to win. So, like I said, I hope that they're able to find someone that will take him and that a place that he'll want to go to as well. So, let's go to the next one. We're going with the Seattle Kraken. This is the newest 32nd team of the NHL. So, first year, didn't make that many good moves. Let's be honest. They were trying to do the smart thing and trying to rack up draft picks and saying, hey, if you want us to not pick a certain player on your team, you got to give us a first and a third. And I'm like, that's a pretty steep price, a first round pick. I mean, unless you're, Tampa and you're in the 29th, 20th to 31st pick, like, you're not going to do that. It's just not worth it. Like, you're going to trade in a first to 10th overall, just not worth it. So I think they were a little bit kind of swinging for the fences, and they struck out in that sense. So they ended up picking up a lot of like middle to bottom six players. But so what they're doing, the difference between what they're doing is in Vegas was saying, hey, like, wheeling and dealing and kind of taking the big risks like Vegas like does. But with that, they ended up working out because you had all these middle six guys that either were prospects. So like, think about Fleury. Like, they went out and were told to pick Fleury, and then Pittsburgh gave him a second round pick. Like, that's amazing. And then like same with like William Karlsson, right? You had like plenty of guys. Not Marshman. Who was the other guy? There's plenty of other guys in the team. I can't think. Smith. Like not Brendan Smith, the other Smith brother. So all these different guys that didn't have opportunities on their teams because they didn't have the time, right? So now these guys that were in third line, fourth line roles who were supposed to be top players are now playing top line minutes, and they're playing the power play, and they're playing the penalty kill, and so they're given more time, so they're able to thrive in these. And those who couldn't, they traded away or they got rid of, or they bought out. It's great. So now Seattle is doing differently. They are doing the rebuild route, so they got a lot of military players, and they were not great last year. So they picked up a lot of one-year contracts, little small contracts here and there, some weird signings. But like I said, this is okay because this is the year where they started to really dial it in. So Grubauer gave him terrible goaltending. Decord he's your third-string goalie, and then you have Drieger, who I believe he was okay, or he was hurt, I believe, last year. So, but now going to this year, you need Grubauer to step up. Unfortunately, he's just still an average goalie in my opinion. They signed him to that long-term contract, but hopefully they can get that him squared away and just get some defense around to help bring up his confidence, similar to what they were saying with the Anaheim Ducks. So, but let's talk about some of the big things they did. They picked up Stanley Cup winner and Andrei Burakovsky. So 5-year deal for them, which is good for them. Andrei, he earned it. It's a 5-year contract. So I think that's going to bring a lot of firepower, a lot more goals, a lot more points to the team, and really bring up that energy, which is great. They picked up Justin Schultz, a good defenseman. Martin Jones, big 1 year. I think that's going to be bigger for Grubauer than most people believe. So it's kind of like what I was saying with St. Louis last video, is that St. Louis has Binnington, who has won a Stanley Cup, but he is emotional. He is very emotional and allows his emotions to get a hold of him. And so what St. Louis did, they brought in Greiss because he's a calmer goalie. He's level-headed. He's been through the league for a while. I think he's like almost 10 years older than Binnington. And it seems that Martin Jones has been around the block. He was with San Jose for a while. He was played with Philadelphia last year. He held his own. Carter Hart struggled. But Martin Jones is older. He's been here. He's a little more seasoned, a little more gray, which is okay. I'm gray, so that's why I'm saying it's okay. So, but Martin Jones, the nice thing about him is that he just brings that experience and that calm. So I think that when Grubauer is having those off days, he's able to talk him through. So Michael Kempany, I like Jared McCann. They signed him for 5 years. I like Jared McCann. I thought Toronto was dumb to get rid of him. They were trying to hedge their bets, I think. So they ended up trading. They trade something to Pittsburgh. I think it was a second and a seventh. Instead of the first and the third, they traded a second and a seventh to Pittsburgh. Less draft capital, but again, they overpaid. They should just let some of their kids walk. They should let them pick Justin Hall or something like that, who has struggled point-wise. He struggled, let's be honest. And the even bigger one, which I was actually really excited about, they ended up picking up Oliver Bjorkstrand